As an extension of our discussion on cardiovascular, we need to think about what your immune system is actually doing. So how do we put those white blood cells to work? Many of you are familiar with vaccines. You've had vaccines during your lifetime for a number of different things, from measles and mumps to potentially the chicken pox, the flu, all kinds of things. But where did they come from? It turns out that vaccines were invented back in the late 1700s in response to the idea that you could in some way protect yourself against smallpox. So really the goal was to protect against smallpox. But what Edward Jenner found, the doctor that was working on a remedy for it, what he saw in his observations were that the milkmaids that milked the cows didn't get cowpox, even though the cows were covered in cowpox. Cowpox is a sister species to chickenpox and to smallpox. So what Jenner thought was, okay, well, let's look at these milkmaids and what's going on with them. And he noticed on their hands they would get small sores, but nothing like a full outbreak. So what he did was actually took the pus that occurs, and if you've had chicken pox or anything like that, you know that it fills with a pussy kind of ooze that he took out of the sores and actually spread them on James Phipps, a little 8-year-old boy. Today, of course, we would never get away with this, but in the late 1700s, the doctor is right. So he exposed James basically to a large infection of cowpox, but it's not large in the sense that it would cause any kind of severe infection, he didn't think. So what he wanted to see was whether or not James would develop any kind of resistance to smallpox. So he exposed James to this cowpox. Then he sent him into these homes where they had isolated individuals with smallpox to see whether or not he would get sick. Like I said, this would never fly today, but his theory was spot on. James was never sick from the smallpox exposure. He was never particularly sick from the cowpox exposure. So by exposing him to cowpox, a similar strain to smallpox, he had James's immune system build up against that particular infection. And when he did, he actually made him immune to smallpox. We now vaccinate for all kinds of things, polio, diphtheria, and so on. We said that smallpox is eliminated. We have to be kind of careful with this. Smallpox has made a resurgence in recent years in small pockets throughout the world. But that's where our first vaccines came from.